Would you describe yourself as black?
Well, I guess I would say yes and no. I wouldn't go like up to someone and I'd be like, "Hey, I'm black," because I look white, even though my mom is black. And when people look at me, they, for the most part, see a white person. And I think part of being black is like your unfortunate reality of just being someone being like, you're black, that's white. That's there, that's here, that's that thing. And it's just someone taking in this optical understanding that black is one thing and white is another thing, and them unconsciously or consciously processing that. Wow. And when people look at me, they're not going to be like, whoa, that is a black person, because I don't look that way. But in my heart of hearts, I don't see the world through the lens of being a white person. That's just not my reality, because my mom is black and my dad's he was a big Jew. And so I can't, and I'm also half black, so like I can't not.
You don't want to take away that part of yourself, because it is truly yourself.
That is who I am.
That's who you are, you know?
I think I was telling you a little bit earlier before, is that I had trouble sometimes being like a venue I started, which is Wild Birds, because I feel like I was being authentic to myself. I'd be dancing, I'd be having fun, I'd be enjoying my life, and then I feel like I would get external stares by people who didn't know who I was, and they presumed that...
Yeah, they're like, who's this white guy trying to act black?
Or even talk on the mic sometimes in a certain way, and I feel like it creates this little discontinuity with other people, and that's been like prevalent my whole life. But I know who I am, I know how I speak, I know what is real to me, and it takes a little bit of time for people to kind of like, in conversation, for the most part, to be able to understand that. And what I find actually most interesting is that whenever I tell a person of color, or mainly a black person, that I am black, my mom's Haitian, for the most part, they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And like, you look and you're gonna be like, okay, it's kind of like Tyronn Lue or like a Blake Griffin weird thing. I can see what's happening here. But whenever I tell that to white people, it is a non-stop like string of questioning. They're like, but that doesn't make sense. Like, why do you look that way? And
wow, they ask you that?
Yeah, and I have to defend my blackness to white people. And
you know what? I never would have like looked at you and thought, this guy has to defend his blackness to white people. That's so crazy.
it's everyone has some sort of cross to bear. You know what I mean? Like, at the same time, like, that's hard and difficult for me, but there are things in my life that probably definitely come easier because I am perceived to be white.
Like what?
Well, this one time I was actually being arrested by the police. This is very happy music. Oh, no, we got dark. Okay, there we go.
I'm taking it places.
Yeah, I know. I figured. I trust you. But I was actually being arrested by the police, and I had my friend who was white. And we were getting pulled over. He had an open ticket. They were about to arrest him. And it was actually like a real tense situation. And anytime anyone ever calls me white, I'm like, I have a phrase to them. I've been saying it for a long time. I say, I'm light, not white, get it right. Because it's important for me that people don't wrongly, assume that I'm one of the lighter. I'm light. I am Caucasian of sorts. I'm not. Well, I am, in part. It's complicated. Anyways. So I'm getting arrested by the police. And basically what happened was, another cop car pulls up. They roll down the window and they yell out to the cops. They're like, hey, yo, I thought we said we're not arresting white guys tonight.
Are you serious?
And the cops both stop there, and there's like tension for like a brief second. And then they start dying of laughter. Because they're like, that is what we do. We just arrest black guys, not white guys.
Wow.
And because they were laughing so much, they were like, all right, you can fucking go. And in that moment, did I go, yo, actually, I am black.
What?
No, I did not do that. I shut the fuck up and let my like white privilege just like take me out of trouble. And that's what I mean is a little bit different from my understanding of being like white versus black is people don't just put me in a box. immediately from that. And that is its own cross to bear. That is incredibly difficult for people just seeing you and assuming that you're a certain way without you having a conversation. And that's an experience that I don't have to feel exactly like a person who doesn't look black. But it is weird where people do perceive me and look at me like I do not belong, or I belong in a certain category that I do not completely relate to.
Wow. It's interesting that you say that about the cops, because I know this is your story. This is Julian's story, not mine.
Nah, that's Jonathan. Nah.
But I've been in situations with cops and things like that where they see me and they think a certain thing because they see me, and then I open my mouth and hear me speak, and it's not what they expected. You know what I mean? It's not what they expected, and so there's times where, like, I've been able to get myself out of situations too, because I have the privilege of having been raised in like military communities where I'm raised around kids who are from all over the country. So my English might be different than what they perceive me to sound like, and so they think differently of me. And I've also been in situations where I'll go into a convenience store at, like, 3 a.m. while I'm on tour, and I can tell when I walk in the door that the cashier is like deathly afraid of me. Like she's afraid of me, right? Straight up. But as soon as I go up to the register and I'm like, "Hello, ma'am. How are you doing? Are you having a good evening tonight?"
What? That's the voice you use?
Oh my god! They instantly, like, you feel the gravity lift off of them, and all of a sudden now everything's fine because he speaks like that, so he has the ability to speak like that. So I'm not gonna be afraid of this black guy at 3 a.m.
That's so real. It's just like from the beginning of time, like we develop language as like a mechanism for it to be like, this is book, that is ground, this is microphone.
Yeah.
I actually think they had microphones back in the old school days, but like they were shorthand abbreviations for stuff. And it's weird because it's just like, this is that is that. It is like a binary function of what identity is, but words essentially function to a certain degree, or at least nouns, or a lot of them, that thing is that thing. And I think people just put race into part of that. You know what I mean? Like, that is black, this is white. And, that's unconscious biases or, conscious biases where they're like, that thing is that thing, this thing is that thing. And people, whether they understand it or not, just put stuff into categories. You know what I mean? And it takes some re-examination of what categories are for you to kind of demystify and understand the spectrum of the stuff, and not just stuff exists in a 0 or 1 binary function. And so that's what I find so fascinating, is just like, race is still understood in a binary function. You know what I mean? You're black, I'm white, you know what I mean? But that's from the external glance. And it's like, I actually don't know what your entire history is, Jonathan. I was like, people don't know my history, but I understand why you would make that assumption. You know what I mean? And so I'm not mad at people whenever people are like, you are white, and I'm like, no, I understand why you'd say that. And I have a conversation with people, but after a while it becomes very tiring to have to like consistently be like, I am the
justify
thing.
yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did people ever be like, so, because essentially what you were like alluding to in your story was like the fact that you would like talk white. Did people like ever say shit about that to you growing up?
Oh my god. 100%. Are you serious?
Really?
Yeah, and what's funny about it is, so when I moved from where I lived in Virginia to where I lived in North Carolina, like when I was in Virginia, I was around just basically like only black people. So when I was in 2nd grade or 1st grade, there was not, the only people that were white in my school were the teachers. And 100% of the students were black, and 100% of the teachers were white. And then when I got to North Carolina, it was like a good mix. And this is hard to play and talk at the same time.
You're doing great.
So when I got to North Carolina,
That made it harder.
when I got to North Carolina, they were like, "Hey, why do you talk like that? You sound black." Or not you sound black. That's
That's good.
They were telling me they were like, why you sound like that? Like, why do you say words like that? You know. And I'm not going to give you any examples of what I would say, but they would kind of make fun of me. So in order to fit in, I would try to speak like them. And that is why I speak how I speak today, because as a kid, I just want to fit in like everybody else, you know. But then at the same time, then I would go visit my family, and what do they say? Say, you talk like a white boy now, right?
Yeah.
So it was like, and then, you know, when I moved to North Carolina, I dressed a certain way, you know, I was in second, third grade, but I dressed a certain way, and then they said, oh, why do you dress like that, right? So then I dressed differently, and then I would go visit my family, and then they would say like, oh, why you dressed like a white boy? Those are white boy shoes. Why are you wearing Airwalks and Jinkos, you know?
You wore Jenkos, bro.
This is back in the day.
yeah. No.
You know what I'm saying?
Please tell me
But
there's a photo. I want to see you in Jenkos. But so did you learn how to code switch to a certain degree, or did you, or were you just like, nah, that's who I'm gonna be?
Well, originally I was like really kind of upset about it, you know, like it were really making me mad. And when I say my family, I don't mean like my mom and dad. I mean like certain relatives and stuff, like who didn't see me and then would see me, and everything's fine now. Shout out to my family, they're probably gonna be watching this, I'm sure. But yeah, I just kind of learned how to navigate it. And as I got older, I realized, you know what, this is who I am, and there's great things about it. Because like I have experiences that I wouldn't have had any other way. You know, I got to travel all over the world. I got to meet people from all over the world. Mm-hmm. So I learned to kind of accept that and just say, hey, this is who I am. And I know I'm not like these people, and I'm not like these people. I'm just kind of like my own thing, and I've kind of had to embrace that. So.
Well, shit.
What about you?
With embracing who I am? Well, so we had a conversation, I think, like a couple months back, where I told you I felt uncomfortable in Wild Birds because all these people would like, I talk on the mic, I talk how I talk, and I dance, and I felt like the whole world was like looking at me and like staring at me because they didn't compute how a white-looking person would, you know, sort of like do or the stuff I was doing. I don't know if that makes sense. It like they had a perception that white people don't do that because that's what I was perceived to be. And I just felt incredibly uncomfortable in a place that I made because I was so tapped into the understanding of like other people's judgments. And I almost didn't want to talk about this today because I don't feel that way anymore.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and I think it literally took me being 36 years on this planet for me to be like, I have to be honest to my truth, and I just don't have to be, you know, privy to other people's glances, like other people's thoughts. It may take a little bit for you to completely understand that I am not purely one thing, and if I tell you that thing, you know, maybe you get that, maybe you don't, but that's not on me to take in your inability to understand life in a non-binary function. And I think that's what takes a while is for people to understand is like, I don't have to take life like as like that person, because it's like non-binary people have the same problem all the time where someone's like, that's a man or that's a woman, and then they refer to them as that thing or that thing, you know what I mean? And they're like, actually, no, I'm not that. And but people are just so conditioned to being like that thing, not thing. Putting that out.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if there's ever been a situation in the world where someone has been playing the steel drums while interviewing someone about being a white passing mixed race person. I don't know if it's ever happened before. But thank you, Julian.
No, I'm not done. I got more to say.
Okay.
What did I want to talk about? Oh, let me tell the story of my mom. So, Jonathan, one time I think I was like 3 or 4 years old, and I sat on my mom's lap. And I looked her in the eyes, and I was like, Mom, I am glad I don't look black like you.
You said that to your mom?
Yeah. And she immediately started crying. And I didn't know what I did because I was just like this little boy, and I look white, and my mom is black, and she's crying. I never had like made my mom cry before, and I didn't even know this story, but my mom told me this later on in life. And from there, my mom told me that it was her responsibility as a black woman, and this sort of like awoke in her that she make it be known to me that I value my black identity, you know, that my Haitian identity, because my mom's Haitian. And so growing up, I felt very black and very Haitian, and I grew up in Pittsburgh, that's where I'm from, but the world sort of perceived me as a white person. So that was a difficult thing for me to just like balance. And I didn't even know I had even a certain privilege that just came along with my, you know, whiteness and just my perceived whiteness. Until like later on in life where there were advantageous situations for me, essentially. You know, where literally I'm being arrested by the police, like another cop car rolls down and they yell, "I thought we said we're not arresting white guys tonight." And like, let me go because they laugh. You know what I mean? That for real happened. But also at the same time, for being white passing and someone who does see themselves as a person of color, I spend so much time having to explain to people, no, I'm light, not white. My mom is actually Haitian. My dad's just like a big Jew. Genetics are weird. And you know, most of the time I find myself explaining this to people, it's almost always white people that have to tell it. Because when I tell that to a person of color or a black person,
they get it.
Yeah, they're like,
yeah, that's what you're saying.
Yeah, they can look at me and they'll be like, okay, like,
yeah, I see that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't initially see you as a black person, but now that you say that, that makes sense because, you know, you may have a cousin, you may understand that like genetics are weird, but white people don't understand that, like, I think that was, I don't know what that was. That weird stuff happens with genetics sometimes. And like, yeah. White isn't just white. And I understand why you would not understand it, because we live in a binary functioning world where this is that is that. And oftentimes race is put within that binary function. And I exist somewhere on a spectrum, which I don't know if it's actually for me to determine. Who determines when someone is black and someone is white?
Oh, man.
And when does that start, you know?
I don't know if there's enough time in this session to even get to the bottom of that. That's like, and I don't really think that's a weird thing to ask. I don't even know.
But for when I look at myself, I don't see myself just as a white person or as a black person.
Well, there's one thing I can say about that, though, is that, like, and this is going to be controversial. I don't know who's going to watch this. If you made it this far, then you're hanging with us.
Hey, what's up?
But I feel like Joe Rogan right now.
What's that?
In the good ways, right? So, like, people also talk about Obama as the first black president, right?
Yeah.
And that always, like, slightly bothered me a little bit, because I'm like, well, his mom is 100% white, right? So he's really the first black and white president. He's the first mixed race president, which I thought was really important to think about. Because, to me, to say that he was the first black president, in some ways, kind of like discredited his entire half of who he technically was. And I felt like it would bring us more together to be like, this guy is actually this guy's black and white. To me, that was way more powerful than saying, all right, this is the first black president. But I get it and I understand, and I hope I don't get canceled from this or something. But, like, you know, I thought Obama was like, you know, to say that he's the first black president kind of like reinforces the one drop rule that says that if you put one drop of black paint in a can of white paint, it ruins the can of paint, and now this can of paint is no longer pure white. And to say that Obama is black, or that a mixed race person is just black, kind of reinforces that old school rule, which is why we say that, like, if your dad's black and your mom's white, then you're just black instantly. And I don't know, is that right? Is it not right? Say it in the comments. Let us know. But
we in comments, bro? That's what's happening right now?
Yes. Yeah, sound off in the comments. Let us know what you think about it.
Well, can I say my point?
Yes, you can.
I think it's just like, so in in South America and in Caribbean countries, they have different determinants of whether someone is like black or white. They don't really there's multiple different names, but in America, it's like the rule of hyper descent versus hypo descent. I may have gotten that backwards. Where in America, if you have one little drop of black in you, the brown bag test, essentially, you're considered black. And it's just weird because there's still this, once again, this binary understanding. You are this thing or you're that thing. But like race and most things don't exist in this purely,
like, yeah,
black or white understanding of the world. And what's more difficult is like politics and your views don't exist in a black or white world, but we are forced to in this society to say, this is what I'm doing, or this is what I'm doing, or I'm trying to opt out. But race, you can't opt out at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the thing, and that's why I still don't I will never go up to someone and say, and I am, but I'm not gonna first identify myself as a black man. I'm gonna say I'm mixed race. I'm black and white.
So if you were darker, would you say that you were black? Like on first encounter with people?
Yeah.
Wow. Isn't it crazy that you have to change how you perceive yourself just for everyone else? Because I mean, obviously from this conversation, you feel like you are black because you are,
yeah.
Right? But isn't it interesting how you have to like kind of tailor it around what other people are gonna think about you for saying the thing that you are? That's interesting.
Yeah, and I've like gotten very good at articulating quickly my arguments. You know what I mean? I used to have a picture of my mom on my phone, but then I thought that was like cheating. And I was just like, that's my mom. And they'd be like, nah, that's some bullshit. And do you know what's even weirder?
What's that?
I one time met a guy who looked white like me, and he was like, my mom is black. And I was like, shut up, you white. And I was like, damn. I did that to someone so immediately when everyone's been doing that to my whole life, and I inherently can't undo some unconscious like binary functioning in that moment at least. And then afterwards I'm like, obviously this guy is like mixed race and he is black too. But in that first initial moment, I did what everyone did to me.
Yeah.
Isn't that fucked up?
That's fucked up.
It's also kind of funny though. Like, to know that like we are valuable and dumb to like even the shit that we preach,
Yeah.
Don't murder and then we murder. This part's getting cut.
Actually, there's no edits on this. So.
No, man, we ain't doing this whole conversation, man.
Oh yeah, we are.
Oh god, man, no one's made it this far.
I'm the Joe Rogan of the steel pans right now. There's no
that
cuts.
is so niche, bro.
That being said, man, I really appreciated this conversation. This is a first time doing something like this, and it's been a challenge to not only play the steel pan and engage in this conversation, but to try to add musical, context to your story. And it's been a real pleasure to have you.
Bet. Correct.
Julian Klepper, everyone.
Thank you, Jonathan Scale.
There we go.
That was weird.
Man.